Today is 23rd of August 2010, and we come to Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 84, Madura Sutta at Madura. It's also the 35th talk in this series. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Venerable Maha Kachana was living at Madura in the Gunda Grove. King Avantiputta of Madura heard the recluse Kachana is living at Madura in the Gunda Grove. Now a good report of Master Kachana has been spread to this effect. He is wise, discerning, sagacious, learned, articulate, and perspicacious. He is aged, and he is an Arahant. It is good to see such Arahants. Then King Avantiputta of Madura had a number of state carriages made ready, and mounting a state carriage, he drove out from Madura with the full pomp of royalty in order to see the Venerable Maha Kachana. He went thus as far as the road was passable for carriages, and then he got down from his carriage and went forward on foot to the Venerable Maha Kachana. He exchanged greetings with him, and when this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side and said, "Master Kachana, the Brahmins say thus: Brahmins are the highest caste. Those of any other caste are inferior. Brahmins are the fairest caste. Those of any other caste are dark. Only Brahmins are purified, not non-Brahmins. Brahmins alone are the sons of Brahma, the offspring of Brahma, born of his mouth, born of Brahma, created by Brahma, heirs of Brahma." What does Master Kachana say about that? It is just a saying in the world, great king, that Brahmins are the highest caste, those of any other caste are inferior, etc. And there is a way whereby it can be understood how that statement of the Brahmins is just a saying in the world. What do you think, great king? If a noble prospers in wealth, grain, silver or gold, will there be nobles who rise before him and retire after him, who are eager to serve him, who seek to please him and speak sweetly to him? And will there be Brahmins, merchants and workers who do likewise? There will be, Master Kachana. What do you think, great king? If a Brahmin prospers in wealth, grain, silver or gold, will there be Brahmins who rise before him and retire after him, who are eager to serve him, who seek to please him and speak sweetly to him? And will there also be merchants, workers and nobles who do likewise? There will be, Master Kachana. What do you think, great king? If a merchant prospers in wealth, grain, silver or gold, will there be merchants who rise up before him and retire after him, who are eager to serve him, who seek to please him and speak sweetly to him? And will there also be workers, nobles and Brahmins who do likewise? There will be, Master Kachana. What do you think, great king? If a worker prospers in wealth, grain, silver or gold, will there be workers who rise before him and retire after him, who are eager to serve him, who seek to please him and speak sweetly to him? And will there also be nobles, Brahmins and merchants who do likewise? There will be, Master Kachana. What do you think, great king? If that is so, then are these four castes all the same, or are they not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? Surely, if that is so, Master Kachana, then these four castes are all the same. There is no difference between them at all that I see. That is a way, great king, whereby it can be understood how that statement of the Brahmins is just a saying in the world. Stop here for a moment. So here, the Brahmins always claim that they are the highest caste, born from the mouth of Brahma, and all the other castes are born from the feet of Brahma. But here, this Venerable Maha Kachana shows that when any one of the four castes prospers, becomes very wealthy, then all other castes will serve him. In which case, there's no difference. What do you think, great king? Suppose a noble were to kill living beings, take what is not given, misconduct himself in sensual pleasures, speak falsely, speak maliciously, speak harshly, gossip, be covetous, have a mind of ill will, or hold wrong view on the dissolution of the body after death. would he be likely to reappear in a state of deprivation in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell, or not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? If a noble were such, Master Kachana, he would likely to reappear in a state of deprivation in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. That is how it appears to me in this case. And thus I have heard from the Arahants. What do you think, great king? Suppose a Brahmin or a merchant or a worker were to kill living beings, take what is not given, etc., and hold wrong view on the dissolution of the body after death, would he be likely to reappear in a state of deprivation in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell, or not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? If a Brahmin, a merchant, a worker, Master Kachana, were such, Master Kachana, he would be likely to reappear in a state of deprivation in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. That is how it appears to me in this case, and thus I have heard from the Arahants. What do you think, great king? If that is so, then are these four castes all the same, or are they not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? Surely, if that is so, Master Kachana, then these four castes are all the same. There is no difference between them at all that I see. That is also a way, great king, whereby it can be understood how that statement of the Brahmins is just a saying in the world. What do you think, great king? Suppose a noble were to abstain from killing living beings, from taking what is not given, from misconduct in sensual pleasures, from false speech, from malicious speech, from harsh speech, and from gossip, and were to be uncovetous, to have a mind without ill will, and to hold right view on the dissolution of the body after death, would he be likely to reappear in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world, or not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? If a noble were such, Master Kachana, he would be likely to reappear in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. That is how it appears to me in this case, and thus I have heard from the Arahants. What do you think, great king? Suppose a Brahmin or a merchant or a worker to abstain from killing living beings, from taking what is not given, from misconduct in sensual pleasures, etc., on the dissolution of the body after death, would he be likely to reappear in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world, or not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? If a Brahmin, a merchant, or a worker was such, Master Kachana, he would likely to reappear in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. That is how it appears to me in this case, and thus I have heard from the Arahants. What do you think, great king? If that is so, then are these four castes all the same, or are they not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? Surely, if that is so, Master Kachana, then these four castes are all the same. There is no difference between them at all that I see. That is also a way, great king, whereby it can be understood how that statement of the Brahmins is just a saying in the world. What do you think, great king? Suppose a noble were to break into houses, plunder wealth, commit burglary, ambush highways, or seduce another's wife. And if your men arrested him and produced him, saying, "Sire, this is the culprit, command what punishment for him you wish," how would you treat him? We would have him executed, Master Kachana, or we would have him fined, or we would have him exiled, or we would do with him as he deserved. Why is that? Because he has lost his former status of a noble and is simply reckoned as a robber. What do you think, great king? Suppose a Brahmin, a merchant, a worker were to break into houses, plunder wealth, commit burglary, etc., or seduce another's wife, and if your men arrested him and produced him, saying, "Sire, this is the culprit, command what punishment for him you wish," how would you treat him? We would have him executed, Master Kachana, or we would have him fined, or we would have him exiled, or we would do with him as he deserved. Why is that? Because he has lost his former status as a Brahmin or a merchant or a worker and is simply reckoned as a robber. What do you think, great king? If that is so, then are these four castes all the same, or are they not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? Surely, if that is so, Master Kachana, then these four castes are all the same. There is no difference between them at all that I see. That is also a way, great king, whereby it can be understood how that statement of the Brahmins is just a saying in the world. What do you think, great king? Suppose, stop here for a moment. So here, Venerable Mahakachana shows to the king, doesn't matter what caste a person belongs to. If he does evil, he will have to suffer for it. And if he does good, then he will be rewarded for it, according to the law of karma vipaka, irrespective of what caste he belongs to, in which case all the castes are the same as far as this law of karma vipaka is concerned. What do you think, great king? Suppose a noble, having shaved off his hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and gone forth from the home life into homelessness, were to abstain from killing living beings, from taking what is not given, and from false speech, refraining from eating at night, he would eat only in one part of the day, and would be celibate, virtuous, of good character. How would you treat him? We would pay homage to him, Master Kachana, or we would rise up for him, or invite him to be seated, or we would invite him to accept robes, alms, food, resting place, and medicinal requisites, or we would arrange for him lawful guarding, defense, and protection. Why is that? Because he has lost his former status of a noble and is simply reckoned as a recluse. What do you think, great king? Suppose a Brahmin or a merchant or a worker, having shaved off his hair and beard and lived the life of a renunciant, and would be celibate, virtuous, of good character, how would you treat him? We would pay homage to him, Master Kachana, or rise up for him, or invite him to be seated, or we would invite him to accept robes, alms, food, resting place, and medicinal requisites, or we would arrange for him lawful guarding, defense, and protection. Why is that? Because he has lost his former status of a Brahmin, merchant, or worker, and is simply reckoned as a recluse. What do you think, great king? If that is so, then are these four castes all the same, or are they not? Or how does it appear to you in this case? Surely, if that is so, Master Kachana, then these four castes are all the same. There is no difference between them at all that I see. That is also a way, great king, whereby it can be understood how that statement of the Brahmins is just a saying in the world. When this was said, King Avantiputta of Madura said to the Venerable Mahakachana, "Magnificent Master Kachana, magnificent Master Kachana. Master Kachana has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Kachana for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. From today, let Master Kachana remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life." And Venerable Mahakachana said, "Do not go to me for refuge, great king. Go for refuge to that same blessed one to whom I have gone for refuge." And the king asked, "Where is he living now, that blessed one, Arahant Sammasambuddha, Master Kachana?" And Venerable Kachana said, "That blessed one, Arahant Sammasambuddha, has attained to final Nibbana, great king." And the king said, "If we heard that that blessed one was within 10 leagues, we would go 10 leagues in order to see that blessed one, Arahant Sammasambuddha. If we heard that that blessed one was within 20 leagues or 30 leagues or 40 leagues or 50 leagues or even 100 leagues, we would go 100 leagues in order to see that blessed one, Arahant Sammasambuddha. But since that blessed one has attained to final Nibbana, we go to the blessed one for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. From today, let Master Kachana remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life." That's the end of the sutta. So here you see, it's very important point here, that even an Arahant, we don't take refuge in the Arahant. We take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha of monks. Only these three. There are some monks, maybe because of their ego, they allow lay people to take refuge with them. And some monks also because partly because of their ego and because of selfish reasons, they want to accumulate disciples. They want to accumulate disciples, and so they want their disciples to take refuge with them. I've seen quite a number of such monks. When the disciples take refuge with them, then they don't allow their disciples to go to other monks to learn the Dhamma and all that. But the Dhamma is not the, the property of any single monk. It is the Buddha's Dhamma that we teach. We don't teach our personal Dhamma. So here, even the Arahant, he doesn't feel that he is qualified for somebody to take refuge with him, only with the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And also he said, even if the Buddha was 100 leagues away, a league is a yojana, translation for yojana. And this yojana is about 10 kilometers. So 100 leagues will be 1,000 kilometers. He said, even if the Buddha was 1,000 kilometers away, he would go to see the Buddha. So this sutta is about the caste. You can see very clearly from here that in the Buddha's teachings, there is no such thing as a caste system. All people are created equal. The only difference is in their karma. When we do wholesome karma, we are considered a superior person. If we do if we do unwholesome karma, we are considered an inferior person, because person who does unwholesome karma harms others and harms himself. And he will go to a woeful plane of rebirth. A person who does wholesome actions, he benefits others and benefits himself. So he will go to a good place of rebirth. So it is the actions, our actions, that determine whether we are superior or inferior, not our birth. So this is one point where the Brahmins were very unhappy with the Buddha for teaching what is contrary to their religion. In the Brahmins' religion, the Brahmins are superior. All other castes are inferior. All other castes are considered to be born from Brahma's feet, whereas the Brahmins are supposed to be born from the Brahma's head or mouth. So it is this point that a lot of Brahmins later, they could not accept the Buddha's teaching, and they were very happy to throw away the Buddha's teachings, and so now the Buddha's Dhamma is almost disappeared in India. Now because of their caste system, there's a lot of bloodshed, a lot of unhappiness, and partly also because of the caste system, some Indians, the lower caste, they have left Hinduism to become Muslims or Buddhists and even Christians, because all other religions don't have this caste system. Now we come to the next sutta, 85, Bodhi Raja Kumara Sutta, to Prince Bodhi. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living in the Vagga country at Sungsumaragira in the Besakala Grove, the deer park. Now on that occasion, a palace named Kokanada had recently been built for Prince Bodhi, and it had not yet been inhabited by any recluse or Brahmin or any human being at all. Then Prince Bodhi addressed the Brahmin student, Sanjika Putta, thus, "Come, my dear Sanjika Putta, go to the Blessed One and pay homage in my name with your head at his feet, and ask whether he is free from illness and affliction, and is healthy, strong, and abiding in comfort, saying, Venerable Sir, Prince Bodhi pays homage with his head at the Blessed One's feet and asks whether the Blessed One is free from illness and affliction, etc. Then say this: Venerable Sir, let the Blessed One, together with the Sangha of monks, consent to accept tomorrow's meal from Prince Bodhi. Yes, sir, Sanjika Putta replied, and he went to the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side and said, Master Gotama, Prince Bodhi pays homage with his head at Master Gotama's feet and asks whether he is free from illness and affliction, etc., and abiding in comfort. And he says this: let Master Gotama, together with the Sangha of monks, consent to accept tomorrow's meal from Prince Bodhi. The Blessed One consented in silence. Then, knowing that the Blessed One had consented, Sanjika Putta arose from his seat, went to Prince Bodhi and told him what had happened, adding, the recluse Gotama has consented. Then when the night had ended, Prince Bodhi had good food of various kinds prepared in his own residence, and he had the Kokanada palace spread with white cloth down to the last step of the staircase. Then he addressed the Brahmin student Sanjika Putta thus: Come, my dear Sanjika Putta, go to the Blessed One and announce that it is time thus. It is time, Venerable Sir, the meal is ready. Yes, sir, Sanjika Putta replied, and he went to the Blessed One and announced that it was time thus. It is time, Master Gotama, the meal is ready. Then it being morning, the Blessed One dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, went to Prince Bodhi's residence. Now on that occasion, Prince Bodhi was standing in the outer porch, waiting for the Blessed One. When he saw the Blessed One coming in the distance, he went out to meet him and paid homage to him. And then, allowing the Blessed One to precede him, he proceeded to the Kokanada palace. But the Blessed One stopped at the lower step of the staircase. Prince Bodhi said to him, Venerable Sir, let the Blessed One step on the cloth, let the Sublime One step on the cloth, that it may lead to my welfare and happiness for a long time. When this was said, the Blessed One was silent. A second time and a third time, Prince Bodhi said to him, Venerable Sir, let the Blessed One step on the cloth, let the Sublime One step on the cloth, that it may lead to my welfare and happiness for a long time. The Blessed One looked at the Venerable Ananda. The Venerable Ananda said to Prince Bodhi, Prince, let the cloth be removed. The Blessed One will not step on a strip of cloth. The Tathagata has regard for future generations. So Prince Bodhi had the cloth removed, and he had seats prepared in the upper apartments of the Kokanada palace. The Blessed One and the Sangha of monks ascended the Kokanada palace and sat down on the seats that had been prepared. Stop here for a moment. Here this incident where the Buddha refused to step on that long piece of white cloth, like a carpet laid out for him. According to the Atthakatha, the commentary, they say that the prince had no children and he wanted a son to succeed him. So he made a wish that if the Buddha stepped on the cloth, his wish will be granted, that he would have a son. So according to the commentary, the Buddha saw that because of his bad karma, he had no son and he was not going to have a son. Maybe in previous life he killed somebody's son. So the Buddha refused to step on the cloth because the Buddha didn't want to give him the impression that the Buddha could not fulfill his wish. That is what the commentary says, but it's not very likely. We can see from the Vinaya books that the Buddha was very strict on a lot of things. What was considered luxurious, the Buddha did not allow. So like Venerable Ananda says, the Tathagata has regard for future generations. So it would seem like the Buddha did not want to create this precedent where monks are treated like royalty, so that in future, if he steps on this cloth, next time other people also will lay out this cloth for monks to step on. So in the Vinaya rules, the Buddha forbade monks from stepping on this type of cloth laid out like a carpet as though for royalty. But later, because of lay people pleading with him and all that, so he relented. Sometimes the Buddha, in the beginning, is very strict, but later, sometimes he relents. Then with his own hands, Prince Bodhi served and satisfied the Sangha of monks headed by the Buddha with the various kinds of good food. When the Blessed One had eaten and had withdrawn his hand from the bowl, Prince Bodhi took a low seat, sat down at one side, and said to the Blessed One, "Venerable Sir, we have thought thus. Pleasure is not to be gained through pleasure. Pleasure is to be gained through pain. Prince Bodhi, before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, I too thought pleasure is not to be gained through pleasure. Pleasure is to be gained through pain. Later, while still young, a black-haired young man endowed with the blessing of youth in the prime of life." So here the Buddha quotes Sutta 26, paragraph 15 to 17. Basically, let me see, page 2, 5, 6 to 9. Here the Buddha talked about his search for enlightenment. Then he went to Alara Kalama, his first meditation teacher, and learned meditation, attained the Arupa Jhana, and he was not satisfied with that because it did not lead to enlightenment. Then after that he went to another teacher, which was Uddaka Ramaputta, and Uddaka Ramaputta taught him a higher meditation, also an Arupa Jhana, and also he attained that, but was not satisfied, and left Uddaka Ramaputta. And then after that he came to a suitable place for striving. Then the Buddha said, "Now 3 similes occurred to me spontaneously, never heard before." So these 3 similes about the wet and sappy piece of wood that was in the wet ground, and then that means it was internally wet and externally wet. And the second piece of wood was inside wet, sappy, but on dry ground. And the third case was a dry piece of wood, inside dry, and on ground that was also dry. So the Buddha thought of this simile that if a person has not, let me see, 335. If a person is not bodily and mentally withdrawn from sensual pleasures, then he can never attain the supreme enlightenment. And another one, he is mentally and bodily withdrawn from sensual pleasures, but the infatuation, thirst and fever for sensual pleasures has not been fully abandoned. Also he cannot attain enlightenment. But the third case of the dry, sapless piece of wood on dry ground is a person who is bodily and mentally withdrawn from sensual pleasures, and also the fever and thirst for sensual pleasures has been fully abandoned and suppressed internally. Only this third type of person can attain enlightenment. I consider this Dhamma that I have attained is profound. So this, I guess there he talks about after he was enlightened, then he went to the 5 monk disciples of his and taught them the Dhamma. Then the monks of the group of 5, not long after being thus taught and instructed by me, by realizing for themselves with direct knowledge, here now entered upon and abided in the supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. So here initially the Buddha also taught pleasure is not to be gained through pleasure. Pleasure is to be gained through pain. This is generally what ascetics in India taught, that the way to heaven is not by enjoying ourselves. They thought we have to suffer here, and then only we can be reborn in heaven or attain enlightenment. So that's why most of them, the ascetics in India, they practice all kinds of austerities, torturing the body. So that's why also when the Buddha attained the arupa jhanas, he found it was so blissful, and he was not enlightened. Then he thought, this cannot be the way to enlightenment. It's so pleasurable, this meditation. So he gave up the meditation. So for many years, he did not use his meditation at all. Instead, he went through various ascetic practices, torturing himself until he nearly died. Then after that only, he considered again and realized all these ascetic practices is not the way. And then he reflected, and then he realized must get back the jhana again. Then he ate 1 meal a day until his body was strong enough, and then he could enter the jhanas, and then he became enlightened. When this was said, Prince Bodhi said to the Blessed One, Venerable Sir, when a monk finds a Tathagata to discipline him, how long is it until, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, he here and now enters upon and abides in the supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness? As to that, Prince, I shall ask you a question in return. Answer it as you choose. What do you think, Prince? Are you skilled in the art of wielding a goat while riding an elephant? Yes, Venerable Sir, I am. What do you think, Prince? Suppose a man came here thinking, Prince Bodhi knows the art of wielding a goat while riding an elephant. I shall train in that art under him. If he had no faith, he could not achieve what can be achieved by one who has faith. If he had much illness, he could not achieve what can be achieved by one who is free from illness. If he was fraudulent and deceitful, he could not achieve what can be achieved by one who is honest and sincere. If he is lazy, he could not achieve what can be achieved by one who is energetic. If he was not wise, he could not achieve what can be achieved by one who is wise. What do you think, Prince? Could that man train under you in the art of wielding a goat while riding an elephant? Venerable Sir, even if he had one of those deficiencies, he could not train under me. So what of the 5? What do you think, Prince? Suppose a man came here thinking, Prince Bodhi knows the art of wielding a goat while riding an elephant. I shall train in that art under him. If he had faith, he could achieve what can be achieved by one who has faith. If he was free from illness, he could achieve what can be achieved by one who is free from illness. If he was honest and sincere, he could achieve what can be achieved by one who is honest and sincere. If he was energetic, he could achieve what can be achieved by one who is energetic. If he was wise, he could achieve what can be achieved by one who is wise. What do you think, Prince? Could that man train under you in the art of wielding a goat while riding an elephant? Venerable Sir, even if he had one of those qualities, he could train under me. So what of the 5? So too, Prince, there are these 5 factors of striving. What 5? Here a monk has faith. He places his faith in the Tathagata's enlightenment thus. That Blessed One is Arahant Sammasambuddha, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. Then he is free from illness and affliction, possessing a good digestion that is neither too cool nor too warm, but medium and able to bear the strain of striving. Then he is honest and sincere and shows himself as he actually is to the teacher and his companions in the holy life. Then he is energetic in abandoning unwholesome states and in undertaking wholesome states, steadfast, launching his effort with firmness and persevering in cultivating wholesome states. Then he is wise. He possesses wisdom regarding rise and disappearance that is noble and penetrative and leads to the complete destruction of suffering. These are the 5 factors of striving. Prince, when a monk who possesses these 5 factors of striving finds a Tathagata to discipline him, he might dwell 7 years. I'll stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying, anybody who wants to learn, whether it is the art of riding an elephant and wielding a goat, or to strive in the holy path, there must be 5 qualities in him. First, he must have faith in the teacher. Without faith in the teacher, he cannot follow the teacher. He does not have enough faith. Secondly, he must be free from illness and affliction. Free from illness and affliction. He must be healthy. Because like in the spiritual path, we strive. We don't eat so much, and we don't eat so much, and if you are not strong enough, it's not possible to strive. Especially like in the Buddha's days, they live outdoors, under the tree or in a cave and all that. Then number 3, must be honest and sincere. If a disciple is honest and sincere, he will tell his teacher his faults, his shortcomings. But if a person is not honest and sincere, he hides his faults, then the teacher cannot help him to progress. Then he must be energetic. Must be energetic. And then number 5, he must be wise. Wise to see the Dhamma, wise to conduct himself in the right way to progress. So all these 5 factors are important for a student. Prince, when a monk who possesses these 5 factors of striving finds a Tathagata to discipline him, he might dwell 7 years until by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, he here and now enters upon and abides in the supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. Let alone 7 years, Prince, when a monk who possesses these 5 factors of striving finds a Tathagata to discipline him, he might dwell 6 years, or 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Let alone 1 year, Prince, he might dwell 7 months, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, half a month. Let alone half a month, Prince, he might dwell 7 days and nights, 6 days and nights, 5 days and nights, 4 days and nights, 3 days and nights, 2 days and nights, 1 day and night. Let alone 1 day and night, Prince, when the monk who possesses these 5 factors of striving finds a Tathagata to discipline him, then being instructed in the evening, he might arrive at distinction in the morning, or being instructed in the morning, he might arrive at distinction in the evening. When this was said, Prince Bodhi said to the Blessed One, "O the Buddha, O the Dhamma, oh how well proclaimed is the Dhamma. For one instructed in the evening might arrive at distinction in the morning, and one instructed in the morning might arrive at distinction in the evening." Let's stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, if a person has these 5 factors of striving, if the Buddha were to teach him in the morning, he can even become enlightened in the evening, or if he is taught in the evening, he can become enlightened in the morning. This does occur, but very rarely. We find the Theravada sometimes, certain young persons, about 7 years old, when they come to the Buddha or to the Arahants, the Buddha can see that this person was probably an ascetic in the previous life and already attained the 4 jhanas. That is a precondition, the 4 jhanas for anagamin, attaining the 3rd fruit, or arahanthood, the 4th fruit. Must have 4 jhanas. Either this life or the previous human life. So there were such cases where the Buddha allowed this young Samnera to go forth in the morning. By the evening he became enlightened already, even sometimes with psychic powers. But that's very rare. When this was said, the Brahmin student Sanjika Putta said to Prince Bodhi, Master Bodhi says, "Oh the Buddha, oh the Dhamma, oh how well proclaimed is the Dhamma." But he does not say, "I go to Master Gotama for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks." Do not say that, my dear Sanjika Putta. Do not say that. I have heard and learned this from my mother's lips. There was an occasion when the Blessed One was living at Kosambi in Gosita's park. Then my mother, who was pregnant, went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, she sat down at one side and said to him, "Venerable Sir, the prince or princess in my womb, whichever it may be, goes to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. Let the Blessed One remember the child as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life." There was also an occasion when the Blessed One was living here, in the country of the vaggas, at Sungsu Maragira, in the Besakala Grove, the deer park. Then my nurse, carrying me on her hip, went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, she stood at one side and said to him, "Venerable Sir, this Prince Bodhi goes to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. Let the Blessed One remember him as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. Now, my dear Sanjika Putta, for the 3rd time I go to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. Let the Blessed One remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life." That's the end of the sutta. So this last part, the Buddha, this prince says, even when I was in my mother's womb, I already took refuge in the Triple Gem. And as a small boy, my nurse or maid also brought me to take refuge with the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. So now for the 3rd time I take refuge. So this sutta the main thing here is these 5 factors of striving. If somebody wants to strive on the holy path, he should possess these 5 factors. Now let's go to the next sutta, 86, Angulimala Sutta, on Angulimala. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anatta Pindika's park. Now on that occasion, there was a bandit in the realm of King Pasenadi of Kosala named Angulimala, who was murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns, and districts were laid waste by him. He was constantly murdering people, and he wore their fingers as a garland. Stop here for a moment. This bandit was called Angulimala. This Anguli means finger. Mala means a garland. So his name was Finger Garland. He used to murder people, cut off their fingers and string them together like a garland and wear. Then when it was morning, the Blessed One dressed. And taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. When he had wandered for alms in Savatthi and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he set his resting place in order, and taking his bowl and outer robe, set out on the road leading towards Angulimala. Cowherds, shepherds, and ploughmen passing by saw the Blessed One walking along the road leading towards Angulimala, and told him, "Do not take this road, recluse. On this road is the bandit Angulimala, who is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns, and districts have been laid waste by him. He is constantly murdering people, and he wears their fingers as a garland. Men have come along this road in groups of 10, 20, 30, and even 40, but still they have fallen into Angulimala's hands. When this was said, the Blessed One went on in silence. For the second time, for the third time, the cowherds, shepherds, and plowmen told this to the Blessed One, but still the Blessed One went on in silence. Stop here for a moment. So you can see from here, the Buddha purposely walked up the hill to meet Angulimala. Even though he was told not to go, he went. Which shows probably the Buddha having surveyed the world with his divine eye or heavenly eye. He saw this Angulimala as someone who had the potential to become an Arahant. That's why he went to him. The bandit Angulimala saw the Blessed One coming in the distance. When he saw him, he thought, "It is wonderful, it is marvelous. Men have come along this road in groups of 10, 20, 30, and even 40, but still they have fallen into my hands. And now this recluse comes alone, unaccompanied, as if driven by fate. Why shouldn't I take this recluse's life?" Angulimala then took up his sword and shield, buckled on his bow and quiver, and followed close behind the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One performed such a feat of supernormal power or psychic power that the bandit Angulimala, though walking as fast as he could not catch up with the Blessed One, who was walking at his normal pace. Then the bandit Angulimala thought, "It is wonderful, it is marvelous. Formerly I could catch up even with a swift elephant and seize it. I could catch up even with a swift horse and seize it. I could catch up even with a swift chariot and seize it. I could catch up even with a swift deer and seize it. But now, though I am walking as fast as I cannot catch up with this recluse who is walking at his normal pace." He stopped and called out to the Blessed One, "Stop, recluse, stop, recluse." And the Buddha said, "I have stopped, Angulimala. You stop too." Then the bandit Angulimala thought, "These recluses, sons of the Sakyans, speak the truth, assert truth. But though this recluse is still walking, he says, 'I have stopped, Angulimala. You stop too. Suppose I question this recluse.'" Then the bandit Angulimala addressed the Blessed One in stanzas thus: "While you are walking, recluse, you tell me you have stopped. But now, when I have stopped, you say I have not stopped. I ask you now, O recluse, about the meaning. How is it that you have stopped and I have not?" "Angulimala, you have stopped. I have stopped forever. I abstain from violence towards living beings, but you have no restraint towards things that live. That is why I have stopped and you have not. Oh, at long last, this recluse, a venerated sage, has come to this great forest for my sake. Having heard your stanza teaching me the Dhamma, I will indeed renounce evil forever." So saying, the bandit took his sword and weapon and flung them in a gaping chasm's pit. The bandit worshipped the Sublime One's feet and then and there asked for the going forth. The Enlightened One, the sage of great compassion, the teacher of the world with all its gods, addressed him with these words, "Come, monk," and that was how he came to be a monk. Then the Blessed One set out to wander back to Savatthi with Angulimala as his attendant. Wandering by stages, he eventually arrived at Savatthi, and there he lived at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Stop here for a while. So the Buddha told him, "I have stopped killing living beings. It also implies I have stopped turning on the round of rebirths, but because you are still creating a lot of unwholesome karma, you have not stopped from the round of rebirths. So when Angulimala went to pay homage to the Buddha, although it's not mentioned here, possibly the Buddha taught him the Dhamma. And having heard the Dhamma, he wanted to become a monk. Now on that occasion, great crowds of people were gathering at the gates of King Pasenadi's inner palace, very loud and noisy, crying, "Sire, the bandit Angulimala is in your realm. He is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns, and districts have been laid waste by him. He is constantly murdering people, and he wears their fingers as a garland. The king must put him down. Then in the middle of the day, King Pasenadi of Kosala drove out of Savatthi with a cavalry of 500 men and set out for the path. He drove thus as far as the road was passable for carriages, and then he dismounted from his carriage and went forward on foot to the Blessed One. After paying homage to the Blessed One, he sat down at one side, and the Blessed One said to him, "What is it, great king? Is King Senior Bimbisara of Magadha attacking you, or the Lichavis of Vesali, or other hostile kings?" Venerable Sir, King Senior Bimbisara of Magadha is not attacking me, nor are the Lichavis of Vesali, nor are other hostile kings. But there is a bandit in my realm named Angulimala, who is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns, and districts have been laid waste by him. He is constantly murdering people, and he wears their fingers as a garland. I shall never be able to put him down, Venerable Sir. Stop here for a while now. So here you see, because of the people clamoring this for this King Pasenadi to go and kill this Angulimala, so he was on his way with 500 soldiers. But it looks as though he was also nervous. He thought maybe he might be killed by Angulimala. So maybe he went to the Buddha for some blessing. And the Buddha said, "Great king, suppose you were to see that Angulimala had shaved off his hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and gone forth from the home life into homelessness, that he has abstained from killing living beings, from taking what is not given, and from false speech, that he was refraining from eating at night, ate only in one part of the day, and was celibate, virtuous, of good character. If you were to see him thus, how would you treat him?" Venerable Sir, we would pay homage to him, or rise up for him, or invite him to be seated, or we would invite him to accept robes, alms, food, a resting place, or medicinal requisites, or we would arrange for him lawful guarding, defense, and protection. But Venerable Sir, he is an immoral man, one of evil character. How could he ever have such virtue and restraint? I'll stop here for a moment. So here you see, the king is saying that if he really became a monk, we would pay homage to him, rise up for him, invite him to be seated, invite him to accept robes, etc., and arrange for his lawful guarding, defense, and protection. So even a king, if a person becomes a monk, even a king pays homage to him. So that's why in the tradition, like in Thailand, even the king bows down to monks. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Angulimala was sitting not far from the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One extended his right arm and said to King Pasenadi of Kosala, "Great king, that is Angulimala." Then King Pasenadi was frightened, alarmed, and terrified. Knowing this, the Blessed One told him, "Do not be afraid, great king, do not be afraid. There is nothing for you to fear from him." Then the king's fear, alarm, and terror subsided. He went over to the Venerable Angulimala and said, "Venerable Sir, is the noble Lord really Angulimala?" "Yes, great king." "Venerable Sir, of what family is the noble Lord's father? Of what family is his mother?" "My father is a Gagga, great king. My mother is a Mantani." "Let the noble Lord Gagga Mantani Putta rest content. I shall provide robes, alms, food, resting place, and medicinal requisites for the noble Lord Gagga Mantani Putta." Now at that time, the Venerable Angulimala was a forest dweller, an alms food eater, a refuse rag wearer, and restricted himself to 3 robes. He replied, "Enough, great king, my triple robe is complete." I'll stop here for a moment. So you see this in India, because of their caste system, the family belonging to what caste is very important. When they mention their family name, they will know immediately what caste they belong to. So that's why the king wants to know what is his father's family name, what is the mother's family name, and all these things. The other thing, this Angulimala, he's such a fierce person, having killed so many people, that when the king saw him, immediately all his hair stood on end. There are some people like this, we say in Hokkien, what you call a hum, a kind of, I don't know how you say, vibes that make people really frightened. Once I had this experience, I was at that time staying on Penang Hill. Penang Hill in this cave where I stayed a few years. So every morning I'll come down on alms round to Ai Tam, where the devotees waited for me. So I was coming down the hill, and then I rounded a corner. Went round the corner, so suddenly there was this big eagle standing on the tree, So I saw the eagle, and the eagle saw me, and it flew off. But that short moment when I saw him, I could sense this fierceness in him. A certain kind. So in this kind of being, you see them immediately, you get a fright. So because of the natural fierceness, probably previously as a human being, I also must have been a very fierce person and killed a lot. That's why now become a killer bird. King Pasenadi then returned to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and said, "It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is marvelous how the Blessed One tames the untamed, brings peace to the unpeaceful, and leads to Nibbana those who have not attained Nibbana. Venerable Sir, we ourselves could not tame him with force and weapons, yet the Blessed One has tamed him without force or weapons. And now, Venerable Sir, we depart. We are busy and have much to do. Now is the time, great King, to do as you think fit." Then King Pasenadi of Kosala rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Blessed One, keeping him on his right, he departed. So the king, he praised the Buddha when other people could not tame this Angulimala even with weapons. The Buddha, just by words alone, can tame him. Then when it was morning, the Venerable Angulimala dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. As he was wandering for alms from house to house in Savatthi, he saw a certain woman giving birth to a deformed child. When he saw this, he thought, "How beings are afflicted! Indeed, how beings are afflicted!" When he had wandered for alms in Savatthi and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and said, "Venerable Sir, in the morning I dressed, and taking my bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. As I was wandering for alms from house to house in Savatthi, I saw a certain woman giving birth to a deformed child. When I saw that, I thought, how beings are afflicted! Indeed, how beings are afflicted!" And the Buddha said, "In that case, Angulimala, go into Savatthi and say to that woman, 'Sister, since I was born, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well.'" Venerable Sir, wouldn't I be telling a deliberate lie, for I have intentionally deprived many living beings of life? Then Angulimala, go into Savatthi and say to that woman, "Sister, since I was born with a noble birth, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well." Venerable Sir, the Venerable Angulimala replied, "Yes, Venerable Sir," the Venerable Angulimala replied. And having gone into Savatthi, he told that woman, "Sister, since I was born with a noble birth, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well." Then the woman and the infant became well. Stop here for a moment. So here, this translation says that this woman gave birth to a deformed child. Whereas in some other suttas, some other books, they say that this woman was in labor pain and could not give birth. I don't know whether you all have heard that. Yeah. So anyway, whichever it is. So now because of this incident here, nowadays, some women, when they are about to give birth, they are afraid they may have too much labor pains or give birth to some deformed child. Then they like to chant these words of Angulimala. These words actually mean, since I was born with a noble birth, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well. So they also invite monks to do this chant for them. So you notice here, he says, since I was born with a noble birth. When a person becomes a monk, he is considered nobility. That's why, like in Thailand, monks are called pra. Sometimes they are called luang. These are titles used for noble people, relations of the king. Only relations of the king can use this. That's why, like in Thailand, they have two ways of speaking: ordinary language and the language of nobles, royal families. Nobles, they speak slightly different terms. Like lay people, they say eat rice. They say kin ahan, eat food, kin ahan, kin eat. But monks and royalty, they say chan, eat, chan. So that's why you see just now the king asked this Angulimala. He said, Venerable Sir, is the noble Lord really Angulimala? Venerable Sir, of what family is the noble Lord's family? He addressed him as a noble, The king addressed Angulimala as a noble. So it doesn't matter what caste a monk comes from. Once he is ordained as a monk, then he's considered royalty, provided he behaves like a monk. Okay. Before long, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute, the Venerable Angulimala, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, here now entered upon and abided in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. He directly knew birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. And the Venerable Angulimala became one of the Arahants. Then when it was morning, the Venerable Angulimala dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. Now on that occasion, someone threw a cloth and it hit the Venerable Angulimala's body. Someone else threw a stick and hit his body. Someone else threw a potsherd and hit his body. Then with blood running from his cut head, with his bowl broken, and with his outer robe torn, the Venerable Angulimala went to the Blessed One. The Blessed One saw him coming in the distance and told him, "Bear it, Brahmana, bear it, Brahmana. You are experiencing here and now the result of deeds because of which you might have been tortured in hell for many years, for many hundreds of years, for many thousands of years." I'll stop here for a moment. So here, you see, even after he became enlightened, he still has to pay for his karma. Because he had killed so many people, some people whose relations were killed by him, they are very, they have a grudge against him. So when they know that this person was the former bandit, when he went on arms round, some people would beat him with a stick or throw a potsherd, a part of a pot at him, and sometimes hit his head. So I don't know how many times this happened. This must have happened many times because he killed so many people. So even when a person becomes liberated, becomes an arahant, karma still follows him. Then while the Venerable Angulimala was alone in retreat, experiencing the bliss of deliverance, he uttered this exclamation: "Who once did live in negligence and then is negligent no more, he illuminates the world like the moon freed from a cloud. Who checks the evil deeds he did by doing wholesome deeds instead, he illuminates the world like the moon freed from a cloud. The youthful monk who devotes his efforts to the Buddha's teaching, he illuminates the world like the moon freed from a cloud. Let my enemies hear discourse on the Dhamma. Let them be devoted to the Buddha's teaching. Let my enemies wait on those good people who lead others to accept the Dhamma. Let my enemies give ear from time to time and hear the Dhamma of those who preach forbearance, of those who speak as well in praise of kindness, and let them follow up their Dhamma with kind deeds. For surely then they would not wish to harm me, nor would they think of harming other beings. So those who would protect all, frail or strong, let them attain the all-surpassing peace. Conduit makers guide the water, fletchers straighten out the arrow shaft, carpenters straighten out the timber, but wise men seek to tame themselves. There are some that tame with beatings, some with goads and some with whips. But I was tamed by such alone, who has no rod nor any weapon. Harmless is the name I bear, though I was dangerous in the past. The name I bear today is true. I hurt no living being at all. And though I once lived as a bandit, with the name of Angulimala, for one whom the great flood swept along, I went for refuge to the Buddha. And though I once was bloody-handed, with the name of Finger Garland, see the refuge I have found, the bond of being has been cut. While I did many deeds that lead to rebirth in the evil realms, yet the result has reached me now, and so I eat free from death. They are fools and have no sense, who give themselves to negligence, but those of wisdom guard diligence and treat it as the greatest good. Do not give way to negligence, nor seek delight in sensual pleasures, but meditate with diligence so as to reach the perfect bliss. So welcome to that choice of mine, and let it stand. It was not ill made. Of all the Dhammas known to men, I have come to the very best. So welcome to that choice of mine, and let it stand. It was not ill made. I have attained the triple knowledge and done all that the Buddha teaches. That's the end of the sutta. So in the end, he praised the Buddha and the renunciants who walk the holy life. Ordinary people, they lead a life of negligence, indulging in sensual pleasures. So just like the Chinese saying, Tao Ti Boi Kho, whereas monks, Tao Kho Boi Ti. For ordinary people, we enjoy first, and then you pay later with tears. Life, when you enjoy, just like a credit card, nothing is free in this world. In the end, you have to pay for it. Whereas people who lead the holy life, we suffer first, but in the end is sweet. When we are young, we don't realize the value of the Dhamma. We don't realize the value of the spiritual path. When we are old, then only we regret when we had the chance to practice. We did not take the chance. A lot of people, they don't realize in life many things come your way just once. As you grow old, then you realize many things come our way just once. A few years ago, there was a man who came here for retreat, and he came only once, stayed 2 weeks, and he didn't appreciate. Then he left and never came back again. 4 years later, when he came back just to tell me he had cancer. It's too late already, terminal cancer. He told me one thing he regret in life. He didn't come back to keep to do retreats. And that was too late. After he just came all the way from Kuala Lumpur just to tell me that. After that he went back. About 2 weeks later he passed away. So life is so uncertain. You don't know how long is your life. If you know how long is your life, you won't be negligent, like Angulimala says. A lot of people are negligent. You always think we have time, but actually we don't have time. Okay, we end here. Oh yes, I believe Angulimala has very good karma from the past. That's why the Buddha went to him. Secondly, I can tell you, many years ago when I was in Penang, I had one devotee who was a close supporter of mine, and he told me about a man he knows who used to be a gangster. And this man, in his younger days, being a gangster, was involved in gangster fights, gang fights, and he killed 2 men with his own hand, stabbed 2 men to death. Now he was old already, maybe 50 or something. So he's quite a different person. So he told this devotee he saw this devotee of mine coming to learn the Dhamma and learning meditation and doing offerings to monks and all these things. So he also became interested. He also joined him. And then he went to the meditation center to learn meditation. Initially, when he learned meditation, he seemed to progress. And then as he progressed, come to a certain stage, as he went into his mind, then he experienced the whole mind turning in dark force, turning. So he was so frightened, he stopped meditating. Because a lot of things are deep in our subconsciousness. So as we meditate, as we go deeper into our mind, then a lot of memories start to come up. So because of his killing somebody, this evil karma is deep inside his subconscious. So when he meditates deeper, it comes to haunt him. So he was so afraid he could not. He had to give up meditation. So you can imagine somebody like Angulimala, when he meditated, I'm sure all these people that he killed will come to haunt him. So he has to exert a strong will to overcome all these. Each one of us, we have different unwholesome states buried inside us, these kilesas. So like for somebody like Angulimala is very extreme. But he knows he has to fight it, because if he doesn't fight it, he knows hell is waiting for him. If he does not become an Arya, he will have to go to hell and pay for many hundreds of thousands of years. So because of that fear, he strove very hard. In spite of somebody like him, it will be extremely difficult to strive on the spiritual path, much more difficult than other people. All these obstacles will come to him. You see, like even when he goes Pindabat, people will beat him. He has to stand it, come back with the head bloody and all these things. But the worst is the meditation, because when he meditates, goes into his mind, all these things come up. So because he put so much effort, finally became enlightened. He needs a superhuman effort for him to attain that liberation.
True that he went to a ripe old age and was not killed by any of the religious. Because there are some stories that are that he couldn't escape his karma and he was killed.
These stories, if it's not found in the suttas, you don't have to believe them. They're all created by people out of their own imagination. But I would probably think, because of his taking so much life, they probably have a short life.
This one on the 7 conflict, the Buddha said, let alone 7 years read. Talk about these people who gone for 7 years and then 6 years, 5 years, and all the way down to just 1 day. Why do you use the term 7 years? Does it mean that somebody with all the 5 qualities will get enlightened in 7 years?
Though it's mentioned 7 years, 6 years, all that down to 7 months and all these things, I think that is just an Indian way of speaking. Indians, they have certain numbers they like to use often, like 500, 84,000, all that. So you can see from the Vinaya books that there's no such thing, that it's not that the monks become enlightened exactly 7 years. No such thing. Makade. Yes. Oh, very simple reason why his practice of the Brahma Viharas didn't lead to enlightenment is that at that time there was no Dhamma in the world. At that time there was no Buddha in the world, no Dhamma, no Sangha. That's a long time ago.
Okay, but our present practice is still trying to strive for the whole Brahma Vihara as part of our practice?
Not absolutely necessary. These 4 Brahma Viharas are just one of the samatha meditation. So the purpose is to attain the jhanas. So when you attain the 4 jhanas or the arupa jhanas, then combined with the knowledge of the Dhamma, then only you can attain enlightenment or the various stages of Aryahood. So this attaining the jhanas is a samatha part. Understanding the suttas, the words of the Buddha, the Dhamma, that is the vipassana. That is the vipassana part. Vipassana is not meditation. Vipassana is understanding the Dhamma. Okay, shall we end here?